Hi, everyone. So if you're like me, you're at the tail end of your master's degree, in my case, a PhD, and you are studying for your CPCE and your NCE. And one thing I can tell you from passing both of those exams is you need to know your theorists. So several people have asked for my mnemonics and how I remember them. And I'm going to give them to you now. But what I would recommend is that you come up with mnemonics for yourself. As I mentioned in a previous video, I identified Alfred Adler is an asshole. That's how I remember it. But it might not make sense to you if you're not thinking the way I'm thinking. The reason I identified Alfred Adler as an asshole is because one of the techniques is spitting in one soup. And that sounds like a jerky thing to do. But he also talks about mirroring and twinning and asking as if. Adler is linked to Eric Fromm and Rollo May. And so I remember those for individual therapy, group therapy, Adlerian therapy, as Alfred Adler is an asshole because of spitting in one soup. The next one I identified was Mary Ainsworth. She was into human development. She did the strange situation experiment, and she does things with attachment theory. And the way that I identified the mnemonic is it's not strange attaching to Mary Ainsworth. She and John Bowlby did secure attachment, ambivalent, anxious, avoidant attachment. And so it's not strange, the strange situation experiment. It's not strange attaching to Mary Ainsworth. So you can hear that, first of all, the mnemonics are very individual. And they've helped me remember it's not strange attaching to Mary Ainsworth, attachment theory, strange, and the strange situation experiment. Nathan Ackerman is family therapy and group therapy. In some cases, he's identified as the father of family therapy. And I just put down family and Ackerman. So as you can hear, that's not much of a mnemonic for you, but I have in my family Ackerman. So family Ackerman was not hard for me to remember. And it's linked to Heinz Kohut as well. Floyd Henry Allport, and I said all Laporte, meaning everyone is getting on board with group work. So if you've ever heard somebody at a train station say all aboard, meaning everybody's getting together, working towards this common goal, it's a studied attitude. And he was social psychology and group work. So all Laporte, and he worked a lot with Ash. There's a Gordon Allport, not to be confused with Floyd Henry Allport. And I just identified my mnemonic as this is not Floyd Henry. So you can see again why the mnemonics need to be personal. But Gordon Allport was defining prejudice. So understanding cardinal traits, central traits, and secondary traits. Because I created the mnemonic for myself, I go, oh, that's not Floyd Henry, that's Gordon. Ackerson, Morton, and Sue developed multiculturalism. And again, I didn't need a mnemonic for that per se because my terminal degree is going to be on aspects of Sue. But Sue is important because the Sue and Sue definition of multiculturalism is what we've all studied in class. Carolyn Atneve did network family therapy and social work intervention, and Atneve was an American Indian Studies program. So the way that I remembered it is it's hard to be social with a speck of acne. Acne reminded me of Atneve, which reminded me of a combination of individual and group therapy. You don't want to have group therapy if you've got a speck of acne. Virginia Axline. Axline is known for children's center play therapy. And the way that I remembered it in my mnemonic is children shouldn't play with axes. So it's a methodology. It's not a theory of counseling, but it did become, play therapy became a modality. Albert Bandura behaviorist Bobo doll. So I just made a giant B and put Bandura behaviorist Bobo doll. And Bobo doll was a very famous experiment. So again, I didn't really need to say anything about that. But that's social learning theory, and Skinner and Wolpe and Krumboltz were part of that as well. Diana Baumrind, she was responsible for thinking of the typology of parenting styles. And bomb sounds like bomb. And so I said, who bombs at parenting? Diana Baumrind. And the reason I did that is because she talked about authoritarian parenting, authoritative, permissive, or just nothing. So that was the connection there. Aaron Beck and Judy Beck. Aaron Beck obviously is the father of cognitive behavioral theory. And because that was something that we studied so much, I didn't really have a mnemonic for that. Into Kim Berg and Stefan DeShazer are solution focused brief therapy. The way that I remembered that is solution focus has some BS. So BS, Berg and Shazer. And I identified goals are small and realistic. They didn't follow the medical model of what's wrong. They looked at really what's right or what the client can do. So scaling, client goals, miracle question, the exception question. Eric Byrne is transactional, and he does social interactions are transactional. And the mnemonic I had with that, if you play with matches, you get burned. So games are Eric Byrne, life script is Eric Byrne, parent, adult, child. They also have something called the wooden leg. Emery Bogardus and is social distancing and the degrees of closeness. And the way that I remembered this, my mnemonic was Emery and Ivory don't go together in perfect harmony. There was a very famous song, Ebony and Ivory go together in perfect harmony. So I made it Emery and Ivory don't go together in perfect harmony because he talks about degrees of closeness. Murray Bowen is genograms and triangulation. And the way that I did Bowen is family gives presents with bows on them. And the reason I did that is because a lot of the genograms and triangulation have to do with family. John Bowlby, again, a big B for Bowlby bonding. And that was the way that I remembered it. Uri Brofenbrenner was the Head Start program. I've spent a lot of time doing Uri Brofenbrenner for my PhD, so I really didn't need a mnemonic for that. But Brofenbrenner is the ecosystems, the meso and the micro and the exo and things like that. Robert Karkoff is humanist in social psychology. And the way that I remembered Karkoff is Carhartt jackets, because even with a Carhartt jacket, you need 3 layers. So the way that I remembered it is because it's helping in human relations, I remembered the idea that you learn by having your family remind you need to put on multiple layers. So Karkoff became Carhartt in my world. And then Stanley Coopersmith. So again, I happen to know something about Coopersmith. So Stanley and self-esteem, I didn't really need a mnemonic. And this goes on from here. But I think that what you can learn from this is mnemonics can be something generic that can be shared with everybody. But most of the time, you need to make the mnemonic personal. So, for example, Harry H.B. Jalot, he was decision making. And the way that I remembered that was gelato. Picking a favorite flavor is hard. So if you want the whole list, I can certainly upload the whole list. But I think the more important part of this is mnemonics are your friends when you identify them personally. So good luck. I'm rooting for you.